doing today? I'm excited to be here. This is probably my second time in DC. Well, I was in, I guess, Virginia, right? And I had a really good time. I went and got to see a bunch of stuff, and the one thing I wanted to see was the White House, right? So I told my friend when I came, I said, you gotta take me to the White House, I gotta see the White House. So we drove up and we walked up to the White House, and I was like, that's it? A little house? Oh, okay. When I was asked to speak here, I was really excited because one of the things that I talk about all the time when I get to travel and talk to groups is about living outside of your circumstances, which I think is really hard, especially for women to do. And so I was asked to share my story. So I thought, well, that's easy enough. I could talk about me all day. So, you know, if I was told at 12 years old that I was going to be standing in front of groups of people all over the world talking about my life, I would have said the devil is a lie, because that's not going to happen for me. You know, I think that I grew up in a very Latina familia where, you know, nobody had any dreams or aspirations. Everybody went to work every day. Everybody came home from work every day. And you just did the same thing over and over again. Every time I talked about doing stuff, people were like, you're dreaming. That doesn't happen in this family. You're Puerto Rican. You know, when I was 12 years old, I got shipped off to Puerto Rico, spent an entire year. My grandmother taught me how to cook, clean, iron. I still don't know how to iron. How to take care of a husband, because that's what you did. And while I was there, I actually learned how to sew, and I'll talk about that journey a little further along. But I grew up with my mom, a single mom, and she worked her tail off. She worked 2 full-time jobs. She was always stressed out and upset all the time, and she took a lot of that out on me. You know, and as a kid, I didn't really understand why she was always so pissed off. I'm like, you're always so upset. You know, and unfortunately, she didn't really understand how to not take that aggression out on me. When I was 12 years old, I was sexually molested by my grandfather. And in my family, nobody talks about it. So I told my mother what happened. And I know that there was a quiet talk that happened. And after that, nothing. We did move because we lived in a 2-flat. I'm from Chicago. So in Chicago, there's a lot of 2-flats. My grandparents lived on the bottom and we lived on top. And my mom did move us away. But every weekend, she'd make me go visit my grandparents. During one of those visits, my uncle, who's just 3.5 years older than I was, raped me in the basement of my grandmother's house while my mother sat upstairs having coffee. And instead of saying something, because I figured nobody's gonna do anything about this one either, I just took the bus back home. I didn't say anything. Not long after that, my mother got married. She had been single my entire childhood. I had never seen her with a man. I had never seen her married to my dad because they were divorced when I was 2. And all of a sudden, she had this boyfriend. And he showed up with 2 sons. And after about 4 dates, they were getting married. And so they did, and we moved in with him and his kids. And that turned into a really bad situation for my mother. He was very physically abusive. And one day she woke up to a knife to her throat. He had come home drunk, and there was a big fight, and everybody was throwing punches, and the police were called, and my mom ran. And the next morning I got up to go to school, and I walked into the kitchen, and my mom was sitting at the kitchen table crying. And I went to console her, so I went up to her and I put my arm around her, and she said, "This is all your fault." And I said, well, damn. So I went into my room, I grabbed my backpack, I went to school. A couple weeks after that, I decided that I need to run away. I was leaving Chicago, because if I stayed in Chicago, they was gonna find me and make me come back. So I was like, I need to leave. So I went to the Amtrak station, and I sat there for a couple of hours until I finally convinced somebody to buy me a train ticket. I had, of course, stolen some money from my mama. And she did. This lady named Rose. She had a little girl. And so I said, I'm going to California, because California is warm all year round, right? It's Hollywood. I was 15. To me, California was Hollywood. So I figured, well, if I'm going somewhere where I don't know nobody, it better be warm all year round, right? I was some kind of smart. So I got on that train, I think it took about 2 days. And I sat there and I heard the conductor say, some, California. And I said, oh, California, here I go. So the train stopped and I got off and there was nothing. It was like rubble, some train tracks. And I was like, this don't look like TV. This is not Hollywood. I don't know what this is. Turns out I had gotten off in Pomona. Ain't nothing in Pomona, right, April? She know. Ain't nothing in Pomona.